Welcome to Business Coaching Secrets with Carl Bryan. If you want to attract new high-end coaching clients, fill live events, and build a wildly profitable coaching practice where business owners pay, stay, and refer, you've come to the right place. In this podcast, Carl provides his keys to the kingdom for finding and signing high-paying clients and building the coaching business of your dreams. Here we go.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, coaches around the world, welcome to another episode of Business Coaching Secrets. It's your boy, the Road Dog, with none other than, pardon me, the horseback riding legend, who is probably, I think he's actually going to be reporting live from the back of a horse today. Carl Bryan, shoots. Are you riding on the beach as we speak, or what's happening?
Shoots. I'm not on a horse, but I am wearing Wranglers and a belt buckle. So you got me at a good moment.
That could have turned somewhere completely different. I'm glad that you said it was Wranglers when you said what you're wearing, because typically when the conversation with you starts, guess what I'm wearing? It's not very good. So anyway, so there's that.
Speaking of horses, donkey, folks.
There it is. Yeah, that's real nice. But
what do you got, Shoots? What do we have?
Well, it's not what I got. People aren't here for me, Shoots. Right? They're just not. As much as I'd like to flatter myself from time to time, and I come up with a catchy headline. Listen, you're the golden smile. This is what it's all about. It's those spitting chicklets right there. The pearly whites that everybody wants to hear from. So my question to you this week, as it is with every week, what's one needle moving activity or thing that you've learned over the past week?
Ooh. I should remember that from last week. Are you going to ask that every week, Shoots? So I might come.
Well, you know what? I'm trying to. It's a thing. It's going to be a thing, so get used to the thing. How's that?
All right. Boom. Okay. Let's get into it. Needle. Okay, so I'm going to do my Zen thing. If anybody's been following or listening for the last little while, you know that I'm in Zen mode, and not so much a period, I think, or not so much a day, but a period of my life. See how long it lasts. Hopefully for forever. I'm just trying to think of a quote that I can't remember it. It's forgiving is not to forget. Forgiving is not forgetting. It's being able to remember without anger. And I just read that and I was like, oh, being able to remember something without anger, that's forgiveness. Because remember, forgiveness is for you, maybe is the frame before I landed that. So anyways, forgiveness is for you. And just remembering without anger, there's real forgiveness for you. So that's a little bit of a Zen thing. And maybe business. Business. Here's something. And somebody listening is going to know why I am saying this, but don't let fear of what could happen translate into nothing happening. I'm trying to word that different so that happened came out. Should have come out twice instead of happening. But don't let fear of what could happen turn into nothing happening. Okay, I can't do it. But anyway, so no doubt you get a bit of an idea. You do nothing. You don't send the email. You don't make the phone call. You don't contact them. You don't have the hard conversation. You don't, you don't buy it. You don't sell it. You don't. Again, that hard thing. Hard is, creates a easy life, and then easy creates a hard life type of a frame. So anyway, so just cautious with doing nothing. It creates big problems. You know what? Actually, you know what I've been on. So it's not that I want to replace. Hopefully that was good, but artificial intelligence, right? So if it's artificial, it's not intelligent. And if it's intelligent, it's not artificial. This again, we talked a lot over the, probably let's say the last couple of years about artificial intelligence at different times. Remember, artificial, again, if you wanted to go deep on it, you wanted to learn artificial intelligence, don't spend your time on artificial intelligence, go machine learning. That's where the algorithm, that's where the magic is. That's where the real intelligence lies. And there's nothing artificial about it. It's, it's the algorithm, it's the thing. So Elon, I watched, it's a long time ago, but Elon Musk, he was talking about AI and he said, look, the robots are not coming in to stamp us out. That's not the concern. what it is, it kind of just going to happen organically. And the example, it's like a real estate development. So you live in a nice, beautiful area, and the area that you now live in, remember at one stage it was an acreage with, possibly horses, with cows, with, gophers, birds, etc. Right? So when a company comes in to do a real estate development, they don't come in to stamp out, the trees, the vegetation, the animals, the nests and burrows, and food for the animals, the hills, the trees, etc. Not to mention the actual animals. Now they don't have a place to sleep. Like all of a sudden some of them die as a result of that, but they certainly, like, you just took their home, right? How would you feel if you lost your home? You wouldn't feel real good. I can't think that it's a lot different for an animal, right? So the animals, the vegetation, the trees and whatnot just become collateral damage for the real estate development. The developer doesn't go, I hate these trees, I hate this land, I hate these squirrels, I hate these gophers, I hate these deer, I hate these cows. It's collateral damage. Do you know what I mean? So AI, as it progresses, and you guys have seen, no doubt, how fast ChatGPT has gone. It's insanity when you see what it's already doing, right? But that said, AI, like, it's misunderstood, right? So I see people on Facebook and whatnot, and they're like they're going into artificial intelligence kind of thing, right? I don't know that that's the way. Maybe that's what you want to do, and maybe that's a home run, and maybe that's what everybody should be doing. But I think you want to look at it differently. So back in the day, electricity, somebody, came out, electricity came along. So did people start electrical companies? And no doubt they did, but that's not how electricity, that's not the value. That's what I'm trying to say. AI, the real value, I believe, is in what I'm about to say. It's not about starting an AI company the same way electricity came along, and it's not about, starting an electrical company. Ford, I was trying to think of an example way back when, but like Ford used electricity to make a production line that made cars. They didn't make money out of electricity. They made money out of cars by using electricity. That was the magic, right? So, GE, made like appliances, right? Well, they didn't go into the electrical business. They went into the business of creating appliances that use electricity, and they used electricity to make the appliances. Does that make sense? I think so. You know what I mean? Like, so that's so by become a user, I want you to think of AI as gasoline. Okay. It is gasoline for your car, but it's not your car. And again, I said that at some stage on the podcast. But that's the way you want to be thinking about it. It's just, and again, I believe that what I'm doing is giving you a framework. That's the way you want to be looking at it. That's the way you want to be thinking about it. The money is not, I'm going to start an AI company. It is, how am I going to use AI to accelerate my coaching, accelerate my client's business, to generate leads, to follow up with leads, to chase people around the internet, et cetera, how to do a lot of the work, to make the work more functional, to make the work better. Like, remember, like the magic. So when I go to Netflix and I want to watch a movie, not because of AI, because of machine learning, it gives me a bunch of different choices, right? Like, what happens when you go to remember the days when you turned on the TV and there was a movie on, you went, oh my God, awesome. And then you watched it, call it Back to the Future, right? Well, now you go to Netflix and there's thousands and thousands and thousands of movies. And what happens, right? Paradox of choice. It's fairly complicated. So now you can't, you know what I mean? Like, you can't decide. The real magic of AI is not providing the 50, but providing the right 3, right? That's the magic. And as the machine learning learns, and as the algorithm learns, and as the algorithm gets better, the real magic for you is to provide the right 3, not the entire 50. So I'll leave that there. Really, what I wanted to bring across there, something that I've been thinking about, playing with. I'm sitting here playing on my internet, or playing on my computer. Using, again, the internet. I've been going to the internet business. We use the internet to accelerate our coaching businesses. There was a time when I ran a coaching business, been doing this a long, long time, and the internet was, I wasn't using the internet to do my coaching. I mean, I was in my car driving to people's houses using, binders and audios and DVDs, etc. So, you know what I mean? So yeah, the AI, you don't want to be, it's misunderstood, I believe. And that's one of the ways that it's misunderstood, in my opinion, and the framework that I would encourage people to think about. Use AI as gasoline. Shoots, there's my answer. How'd I do?
Hey, listen. Oh, geez, hold up. Jesus, apologies there.
Indeed.
That's awkward. Hey, listen. Every show seems to have like an undercurrent. Like, there's always like a recurring theme, or there's always like an ongoing joke, or something that you see in every Seinfeld. There's Superman,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Is ours Michael J. Fox? Did that just happen?
Good Shoots. Back to the Future. I watched it. Okay, so yesterday was Father's Day, and my mom or my wife, daughter, and I, we jumped into bed, watched a movie, and it was Father's Day, so I actually got to choose the movie. And guess what movie I chose?
Secret of My Success.
No, Back to the Future. We watched it. I fell asleep, of course, within 15 minutes, but anyways, forget that. So there you go. So maybe it is Michael J. Fox Shoots. Maybe that's why I chose it. Maybe that's why.
Maybe on a subconscious level, you didn't even realize it was happening. Hey, listen, just to your point here. So the thing that came to my mind as you're talking about using AI and not reinventing the wheel, if you will, because I'm not sure how you could do it.
Nice.
But it's no different than you give somebody a sales script, you give somebody whatever, and it's like, you give somebody your software as an example, and a whatever it is, and people want to reinvent it. Like, why do people feel that they need to like mess with a winning formula rather than just go with what's working?
Because your brain, yep. And again, you got this brain that is NASA computer times 10, and it just wants to complicate things. And the most difficult thing you can do, according to Steve Jobs, who apparently was a pretty smart guy, made a lot of money. The most difficult thing you can do is simplify, simplify, simplify. So you're right. What did we say last week? Yeah, it was like, um, I can't, but complicate, you know what I mean? The magic is in the simplicity. But as I say that, everybody's heard that, right? Like, it's like a throwaway line, but then you don't do it. You know what I mean? Your client, forget you, your what we said last week is it works so well, we no longer do it, right? Your client, the number one form of lead generation that got their business going, they no longer do it. All you got to do is find out what that was way back 3 years, 5 years, 3 years, 2 years, 1 year, 9 months ago, and just kick it back into gear, and we'll assume with about 90% predictability, it's going to work really, really well again. But they got away from it for crazy reason.
Okay, so that was all good. Was there anything else? Like you're on a roll here. So was there anything else over the past week that you found in terms of needle movers?
Well, I don't even know if this is almost trite, right? But like, they teach kids calculus in school, and is it not common? Like, my daughter and we were away, and had some homework for her to do, and I'm kind of going through the stuff that she's learning, right? And like, it's like, why don't they teach them about careers? And she's she's 11 years old, right? So maybe we can get serious, but I don't know. Is that not the right time to teach her about what a career means, and finances mean, and salaries and taxes and filing, budgeting, credit, what credit is, taking out a loan, how interest works? Maybe I just, please teach my daughter how interest work. Please teach your kids how interest work, right? Because if you ever had, a loan that all of a sudden some compounding interest kicked in at 21% from your awesome credit card that you can't catch up on, like, you just never, like, you literally could never catch, you know what I mean? In some cases, you just never catch up. College debt, again, in the fact that you can go bankrupt and still owe your college, your fees for college, and then maybe they'll wipe them out, maybe they don't, you know what I mean? It's a little bit of insanity, right? Buying a house, investing in stocks versus bonds. Maybe I should put crypto in there. Maybe I shouldn't, but I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, it just seems like such a 101, and you get there, like, you want to become a master of asking, like, so I'm looking through her homework, right? And I'm just like, is this make any, rather than just teach her what's there, which I should just, if I wish I could just go and just teach her what's there, right, and get on with our day and go to the park. But I'm there and I'm like, does this make sense? Like, you got to become a master of questions, right? Like if you ever watch Tony Robbins speak, basically what you're going to see is a series of questions being asked, right? Like that's how he literally speaks in questions, right? Because why? Thinking is nothing more than asking and answering questions to yourself. So by asking somebody questions, what you're doing is you're directing their line of thought. And that's why, profit acceleration software, our software is what? The foundation of it is questions. Why? Because we're leading, we're leading your thoughts, right? A little bit of, anyway, so, there's some Jedi magic going on with that. But, like if you had a conversation with Tony Robbins, I can tell you, well, I'm going to presume that he's trying to influence you in a positive way. And I'll assume that maybe you're trying to influence somebody in a positive way, i.e., coaching client. Well, when you spoke to Tony Robbins, he would speak 20% of the time. And a ridiculous proportion of that would be him asking you questions. And then you would be speaking 80% of the time. And by the way, speaking of, and I'll assume he's trying to influence you, I can tell you he's looking for your, what he would refer to as model of the world, right? Why? So that he can easier influence you, right? Like we had on the pre-show, right? We opened up Ryan Shoots, right? And it was just, he basically, in a nutshell, it was like, my darn client, I'm giving him these good things to do, but then he doesn't do them. And I kind of challenged him. We went back and forth, and Ryan, you know what I mean? Awesome coach and doing a great job. But we really got to look, you can't, that's a cop out, right? And Ryan agreed with that, right? But we have to, what you got to do is you need to take ownership. It's not that he won't do anything. You haven't found what will motivate your client. And you've got to find that. That's why Tony Robbins is trying to find your model of the world, because if significance drives you, if love drives you, if contribute, there's contribution, there's growth, there's love, there is why am I open significance, there's certainty and uncertainty, right? So there's these six needs that Tony Robbins, there's 4 primary ones and then 2 of the soul, growth and contribution, blah 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 blah. He's trying to work out what motivates you, let's put it that way. So as you're speaking, not only is he listening to what you're saying and genuinely listening, as well, I would assume so, as opposed to listening to respond, he's listening, but he's trying to work out what it is that motivates you, right? So I don't know if that, like Road Dogg as an example, we've talked about this, right? You are driven by freedom, okay? So if you're driven by freedom, there's a certain way. You know what I mean? Like if I all of a sudden lock you in an office and you're going to be working 12 hours, shut the door, and I'm not going to let you out, how's that going to work long term? You know what I mean? And the answer is not very well, right? So understanding that. And then, of course, most people will go to money, and that's understandable as far as what drives the average person. But you will find that money is what it feels like on the surface. But if you go deep, it's very seldom money. I'm going to say 20% of the time, possibly less, but it's very seldom money. So be careful with that. Be careful getting stuck there. Go a little bit deeper, and you'll find that there's something else. Actually, one thing, Shoots, it was Father's Day yesterday, which again, depending upon when you're listening to this, it might be a long, long, long way away from Father's Day. But one of the things that I wrote down, which may or may not be of value to some, but and I actually have this written on my phone in notes that I visit on a regular basis, but it's don't be lucky to be her dad, be worthy to be her dad. And I think that has, when you're having a bad day and the clients are canceling, or they're not answering the phone, or they're not responding to your emails and your ads, and they're ghosting you, and they want to cancel, or they're not paying, or do you know what I mean? Or you're doing a really good job, but then they're not responding to the really good advice that you're giving them. Go to that your goal is to be worthy. You know what I mean? Like trying to find out what motivates your clients and legitimately motivates your clients. You know what it can be? Hard, like really, really hard. Especially with a male, because a male wants to put on a little bit of a front, right? Their identity is getting pushed a little bit. It can be challenging, but if the goal is nothing short of success for your clients, what are you going to do? work a little bit harder, ask some more intelligent questions, right? Like when they answer, say why. That's a really good question. When they answer again, you say, well, why, right? You do that 7 times. I'm going to tell you, you're going to get the freedom, by the way. But remember, my definition of freedom and Road Dog's definition of freedom and your definition of freedom and your client's definition of freedom will be a little bit different. So again, trying to work that out might be a good idea. But it's it's not that they, like with their business, they want to have a good business. Look, I've said this a lot, but this is very important. They contact you because they want leads. But they want leads. Why? Because they want sales. They want sales. Why? Because they want revenue. They want revenue. Why? Because they want profits. They want profits. Why? Because they want cash. They don't realize that profits and cash are 2 different things. And then they want cash. And why do they want cash? Because they want freedom. So they buy the ad to get freedom. And then I'll let you guess whether or not that's the way it works out. But like understanding that as a frame, and that the guy doesn't really, or the gal really doesn't want leads. They want freedom. And then understanding how you could go from, lead to client, from lead to client to revenue to profits to cash to freedom, like defining that freedom to go, what is that, 6 steps? That could be hard. And the only way that you will get there, or the way to get there, the best way to get there, the highway versus the bumpy road to get there, is questions. And the better you get at those questions, the more confident you get. Like Road Dog could say something, or give me an answer, and then I say why. And if I don't say it in a confident, authoritative, look, I need to say it in such a way that, look, wow, okay, look, I need to know more, right? But I wouldn't say it. If I did say that, it would be like, hang on a minute, what the hell's going on here? I've got to say why, but I've got to say it in an authoritative way in order to get the answer. So shoots, that's going to be worthy to be here, Dad. You don't have the life you want because you keep feeding the life that you don't want. Right? So you meet people all the time. Like I want you to introduce me to somebody who is overwhelmed, busy, and just constantly overwhelmed. Let's use that as the frame. Okay. Do you know what that individual is? Lazy. Lazy, 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 lazy. Lazy people are the busiest and the most overwhelmed. It's ridiculous. It's ass backwards, but it's reality. So you want to help them. You got to deal with their lazy problem, not their other problems. You know what I mean? That's you got to go to I go to the doctor and they're like, oh, take this pill. It's like, well, hang on a minute. In order to get to the root of the problem will take time. Does the doctor want to take the time? Does the doctor want to become a psychiatrist all of a sudden? Your instincts are correct. Hard no, give you the pill, get out of here, next patient, right? And by the way, lots of wonderful doctors who don't do that, but maybe you can see that as a frame. Questions. Become a master of asking questions. And a master will be very, the frame, the authoritative part of it, not just the questions I ask, but the way in which I ask them is important. So shoots, didn't mean to go there that long, but that's all I got, man.
What do you add to that, Carl? I've been watching this thing on TikTok, and it's called the School of Hard Knocks. It's just because when you're talking about, I guess maybe too many people are thinking it's going to be a straight, predictable line to success, which everybody knows it's not. The cool part about that one channel there is he goes up to people driving really nice cars and he's like, hey, what do you do to be able to afford a car like this? And then he asks them questions about, being successful entrepreneurs. And the reason I thought of you on the one of them, because the one guy is just talking about, it's the non-sexy financials that no one's willing to go to. Like, I was just like, oh my God, is this Carl? Like, what's happening right now? But the other one is so consistent, is always, have you ever been broke? And they all laugh, all of them. Because everybody who's made it and done really, really well has gone through financial hardship. So I just think that was really cool. And there's one guy, I thought there's a couple of quotes that he had. He said, beliefs are what you think is true and values are what you think is important. And I was like, oh, that's really good.
Say that again. That's awesome. Please say that again.
Beliefs are what you think is true and values are what you think is important.
Nice. Yeah, there you go. Nice.
Right? It's interesting to me because as I'm listening to and sort of watching some of these, you can just tell that they have their, much like yourself, your mental models, right? In terms of just the way that they operate. And a lot of these mental models, either they've gotten from other people, and you hear that a lot, or just through their own experience. So this is a great segue, actually, because every week I'd love to find out, is there a mental model that you've gone to, or that you've created, I guess, that's provided you value over the past week? So over the past 7 days, is there a mental model that's provided value for you?
Okay. Okay. So I believe, actually, no, Charlie Munger, who is the OG of mental models. I think it's fair to call him that. I think he'd be cool with that. The late great Charlie Munger. You should have like a lattice of mental models that you follow, right? So you kind of, because I don't know how, like there's hundreds of mental models, right? So to go to all of them, or to scan through which ones am I going to use, speaking to everybody listening, right? That's not what I'd be guiding. That's not the way that I'd be coaching my client, right? So I think you got your go-to. So the go-to, I think first principles should be in everybody's little repertoire. You know what I mean? Like, you just, like, again, if you followed us, you're going to know this, right? But so hockey, right? What's the first principles of hockey? And the answer is the rule book. Okay, what's the first principles of football? The answer is the rule book, right? So somebody like Bill Belichick, who's, by the way, getting some bad press right now, right? He's got a pretty young girlfriend, and then he can't find a job. But anywho, debatably the greatest, let's call him one of the greatest football coaches of all time. Surely that would be fair. He knew the rule book a little bit better than the others, if you know what I mean, right? Certainly used it a little more. He used it more effectively, right? But again, he's built like the competition is looking at Bill Belichick's plays and then improving them and adjusting them. And then Bill Belichick is looking at the rule book and then creating his plays. You know what I mean? Way better example is our buddy Elon Musk, right? The alien trying to get home. He, like, the guy, he's putting rockets into space, right? And he's never, been to school and done rocket science. It doesn't make any sense, the things that he's doing, right? So how does he do it? First principles. And I think the way that he describes first principles is, just think of a tree, and you've got the root of the tree, and what am I trying to say? Like, the tree, the solid thing that holds the branches. Why am I not thinking of that? Shoots, feel free to help me here, right? But
The trunk?
the trunk of the tree. There you go. The trunk of the tree. My heavens. But anyway, so you've got that. That's first principles. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's there. And then the branches come off, and and some of them are small and some of them are big, and then you got the leaves, etc. You got, in order to understand hockey, in order to understand football, in order to understand rocket science, in order to understand business, you got to go to the first principles, right? First principles of business, certainly value would be there, right? At the end of the day, you're trying to exchange money. You want to exchange $10, $20, $1,000, 10,000, 100,000, a million, 10 million, 100 million. You just have to add more value, right, in order for them to do it again and to further buds, right? So, anyways, so first principles would be in there for sure. But maybe one, I don't. But again, I can't think of any. Like, I give you an example that I've thought of here in the last 72 hours, would be 80-20. Very famous story. Steve Jobs, Phil Knight, they catch up. Steve Jobs, Phil Knight, Nike, right? Steve Jobs. He says to Phil, "Hey man, you built a wonderful company." Phil goes, "Oh wow, thank you. I really appreciate that." He goes, "You build some wonderful products, but you also build some crap. Stop making the crap and only produce the stuff that's amazing." And by the way, 20% of Nike's line was excellent. 80% was kind of riffraff type stuff. Guess what Phil did? He went back to the office. Very famous story. He cut all of the inexpensive stuff out. He just kept the 20, and the magic stuff, and bingo, bango, bongo. So I don't know if that's, my product line is what that's an example of, but effectiveness, productivity, efficiency, etc. Like, the 20% is 16 times as productive as the activities in the 80%, right? But remember, you take a magnifying glass and then you put that over the 20, and then you go to the further 20 within the 20, an activity is 64 times as productive, right? So, like, if you have excuse my math here if I got it wrong, but like if you have 59 things to do, there's a significantly small percentage of them, call it 10, that are going to be like 16 times as effective. The problem, the question, the magic, the magnifying glass, you got to identify the 10, because they're not going to jump off the page at you. They're not going to jump. Remember, your mind is what? Designed. Like, your mind wants to complicate things because it's a very complex animal. Like, again, the NASA computer times 100 in between your ears, right? How's that working out? Complicate, complicate, complicate. Remember, like there's a saying, if you're in your head, you're behind enemy lines, right? You go to a neighborhood where kids are getting into trouble. The reason they're getting into trouble, they have too much time. They're not playing basketball, they're not playing soccer, they're not playing football, they're not, the kids aren't busy. And then what do? They go to drugs, they go to violence, they go to, that's I don't know. By the way, maybe I'm wrong. You tell me. You go and visit and do some homework and ask some intelligent questions in these types of neighborhoods, like what's really happening. That's what you're going to find, is that the kids aren't busy, so therefore they're getting themselves into trouble, right? You introduce me to somebody with depression, and I'll introduce you to somebody who's in their head, right? And depression is real, and I do not want to minimize it because I'm in trouble for that. That's not what I'm doing. It is real, right? So the problem is, that sounds good to a person without depression. Oh, just get out of your head. But the person with depression, it's very, 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 very challenging. But I can tell you this, that if you introduce me to a depressed person, there's a really good chance they're not sleeping well. There's a really good chance they're not hydrating properly. There's a really good chance they're not eating well. There's a really good chance they're not exercising. There's a real good chance they're not lifting weights, like lifting heavy things, which is important. So you take the healthiest person with the healthiest mind, and you add that little, whatever number of things, like 5 things that, they're not doing well, which are the fundamentals, which, by the way, first principles of your body, right? That person would not be functioning at a high level. I'm sorry, right? Drinking too much, add that in there if you want, right? Anyways, so again, so hang on. So let me go. So I'm just thinking question, right? Here's a question. Let's assume you got 10 things that are like 64 times as productive as the other things on your to-do list. You're hovering around 60, right? How do you, first of all, identify the top 10 things? And are you going to, which by the way will take time, you have to kill brain cells. And sometimes that's just something you won't do because you don't have it, you don't have it calendarized and you're not doing it, right? But let's assume that you do the hard work, you identify the 10 things. Now, once you do that, how do you apply gasoline to the 10 things, right? And then, by the way, how do you apply less gasoline to the other things? Which, by the way, I said something earlier that piggybacks this, like, which I've been thinking about. You don't have the life you want because you keep feeding the life that you don't want, right? Like that might land really, 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 really hard for you. By the way, if alcohol was something that you struggle with, you feed that when you really want to get away from it, right? But again, guess what? If you are a person who relies on alcohol, that's your habit. Maybe it's an addiction. You know what I mean? That's all good for me to say, hey, don't have a drink when it can be really, really challenging for you. But do the hard things. Remember, the person that struggles to go to the gym is the person that will get the most out of the gym. The person that struggles to meditate, like myself, it's just something that does not come naturally. It's just one of the most challenging freaking things to do, to shut my mind off, but I'm getting better at it. It provides so much more value for me than the person that the Zen type that it just comes so naturally to, right? So that said, if it's really, really hard for you to find those 10 things, you're going to get more value out of it because you're probably more scattered, right? So how do you pour gasoline on the 10 things and pour less gasoline on the others, right? And remember, frame, I think there's 3Ds. What is it? Delete, delegate, do. Is that right? Delete it, first of all. Does this even need to be done? Delegate it, give it to somebody else, do it last. And by the way, the needle mover of those 3 is delegate, delegate, delegate. Really get really, really good at delegating. But the problem, by the way, is most entrepreneurs, certainly most business coaches, don't have a team. I say, oh, delegate something. And they're like, well, to who? Right? And I'm like, yeah, this is a problem. You haven't built the team. You're trying to do it all yourself. which, by the way, might be where you're at, and that's not a solution that we can provide or a framework that we can correct right now. But if you don't know where you're going, any road will get you there, right? If you're going down the highway and there's no off ramp, you can't get off. It's just around and around and around she goes, right? So knowing that a team could be the thing that saves you, at least you know where you're going, so that you don't have to worry about any road will get you. If you don't know where you're going, any road will get you there. Going around and around and around in circles. So shoots. That's 80-20 is the answer.
Do you think the delegation piece, Carl, is like the big, like it's back to that one TikTok channel there. The one guy had said, they'd asked, like, what's the most money you've ever made in a single year? And he said, well, this year we're going to do 300 million. And he goes, well, how did you get there? Like, how do you scale to that? He goes, by delegating and by hiring the right people. He goes, if it was just me, I'd be lucky to make 3 million, not 300.
Yep.
Do you think it's just highly underrated, like to the capacity at which one can scale just by the simple act of delegation?
Yep. Yes, but you gotta get the right, you gotta hire like who are you gonna hire? Like, you got lead generation, conversion, and fulfillment. So in a coaching company, you need somebody to generate the leads. You need somebody to close the leads, and then you need somebody to do the coaching. So like a 3-pronged tack, right? So you've got to build a team. But you just said scale, though. That's really, really important, right? Because there's growth and scale. Grow is when the company grows and the expenses come with. And then scale is when the company grows and the expenses stay fundamentally the same, right? So Facebook could add 1 million people today, and there's no need to hire anybody, right? So
ask Elon about Twitter.
What's that?
Ask Elon about Twitter when he bought that and pretty much laid off everybody, and it still worked.
Oh my God. Yeah. Yes and yes and yes. And again, anybody who hasn't read that book, Walter Isaacson, Elon autobiography, God dang, man, the guy's nuts. I would not, again, I would not want to be him. There's a time in my life I would have read that book and just like probably idolized the guy, right? Went, oh my God, which, I idolize him in ways, right? But there's not enough money in the world to trade places. No way, known. Just inner peace, brother. Inner peace.
I got three questions.
Okay.
Yeah, 3. One, you talk about and I love it. If there was 10 things, right? If you got 64, there's 10 that are, 59, there's 10 that are really the big ones that are 16 times more effective. Okay.
Yep.
How do you identify what those are, man? Like, is it it clear or like how, is there a mental model that you work through?
Question. Yep. There's a book on it, One Thing by Gary Keller. So if I do this, will it knock the other things over? That's the question, right? So if I automate this, you know what I mean? Like delegate, thinking about delegating, right? Like what could you do so you no longer needed to delegate, right? So things like CRM, automation, AI for sure. You know what I mean? So that's, what's the thing? So when you go through how many things will this knock over? How many things will this knock over? You're looking for the domino that knocks over the other dominoes, right? So that's where those are the things. That's the one thing. That's what you want to do. Yeah.
Second question. Okay. Current favorite business leader that you are just like loving?
I'm going to say, look, Elon Musk is the first one that came to mind. But then you know what I did is like the Steve Jobs autobiography, like my heavens, that same thing. And I'm going to say Walter Isaacson. Like he's just able, the guy followed Elon around, right? And again, if you read the book, like I just can't see that being like, it would have been a little bit on the chaotic side. Like he would have seen some crazy stuff, like, Elon's dad and all the kids and everybody. So I'm going to say, Walter Isaacson is the guy who wrote the autobiography on Elon Musk and Steve Jobs, by the way, and many others.
Who do you think I would say?
You?
Yeah.
Who do I think you would say?
Right now, like it's just the last couple of weeks. I'm like, oh my God, so good.
Zuck?
No, Dana White.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Oh my God.
Dana
Gary,
to
my
me is
buddy,
such a
you
legend.
know, the guy I box with every day. So, now I got my surfing thing that I've
Yeah,
now
yeah.
every day. Oh, I was with a dolphin today, by the way. I'm just scooting around. Dolphin literally playing with me, man. Swear to God. I'm just like, get off my board, and I'm just there, man. The dolphin, they're very friendly, right? Comes up and he's zipping around my board. It's amazing. Oh my heavens. Um, anyway, so Gary Lightbourne, he fought Tyson and Tyson, Holyfield, Lennox Lewis, George Foreman, all of them, right? Sparring, had a big. I saw him fight I saw a video of him fighting at Madison Square Gardens. But anyways, he called me from Vegas. So there's like a big, I don't know, a Mexican guy title fight. Anyway, so he videoed me from Vegas, and I'm watching. Oh man, was it loud? Woo-wee. Cool. Anyways, Dana White, stud, man, stud.
I just every time there was one thing that because I guess somebody asked him in regards to Joe Rogan when they wanted, everybody wanted to cancel Joe Rogan, and Dana stuck up for him. He's just like, well, this is also the guy that I think it was. What was it? Was it Fear Factor? The show that he did, was that the one?
Yeah, Fear Factor.
Yeah. So when he's doing that, they were interviewing him, and he's talking. He's just raving about the UFC before he had anything to do with the UFC. And Dana's like, man, I need an announcer. And then he called Joe Rogan and said, listen, I'd love for you to come and help, be one of the announcers, but I can't pay you because they were upside down at that point. And I guess he did like the first, what was it? Like, I don't even know, like I think a dozen of them for free. And Joe Rogan's response was just, you're telling me I get to sit ringside watching the sport I love and I get to talk about it? I'm in. And he was loyal to Dana at the time. And Dana that's the type of guy that he is. It's unbelievable. Like, that guy I got to see if there's not a biography on that guy because I love the way he just is so, this is who I am. And if you don't like it, that's too bad. And obviously he sold the UFC for a mint, right? So.
Yeah, mint. That's a mint times 10, my brother.
Right.
But right. Yeah, the cancel culture thing is what you're talking about. It's just, it makes a throw up in my mouth, bud. So whatever. Let's keep going.
Speaking of throwing up in your mouth, awkward segue. Hey, what's one thing that you take from today's show? I have no idea how I'm segueing this. That somebody can take and put into their business. Hey, here it is. So they don't have to throw up in their mouth and they can actually be successful in their business.
Good. Nicely done, Shoots. Nicely done. I'm thinking of, again, don't be lucky to be her dad. Be worthy to be her dad. No doubt, don't be lucky to be her mom. Be worthy to be her mom. I think there's some value, you know what I mean? Like really just, I don't know. You know what I mean? That's, luck's what happens when preparation meets opportunity. Is that what they say? I think also, you don't have the life you want because you keep feeding the life that you don't want. And again, that's a quote, I don't know where that comes from. And, I Google, you know what I mean? Search it, please, for credit to whoever's saying that. But I think that's, I think there's incredible power in that. You know what I mean? Like, again, just think of the guy or the gal who keeps drinking, right? But they're feeding the life that they don't want, right? And that's why they can't have the life that they do want. But there's so many other substitutes for alcohol. Like it's the business you don't want. It's the team members you don't want. It's the model that you don't want. It's the city that you're living in that you don't want. It's the friends that keep coming around that I don't know what it is. And you know what I mean? But I think there's some serious value in that. When I heard it, it landed at a high level. So there you go. That's my answer, Shoots. How'd I do?
Beauty. Well, thanks for tuning into another episode of Business Coaching Secrets with none other than the king of the Caribbean, King Carl himself. And you're on the inside. And if you're not getting access to the pre-show, you aren't getting Carl's daily emails, you want to learn how to grow and scale your business coaching practice, you want to learn about profit acceleration software, flash coaching, I could go on, folks, but I won't. If you want to learn all that, go visit focused.com and subscribe today. And if you enjoyed the podcast, please share with a friend. And also, please leave us a review. We know how these things work. The more reviews and the more likes and everything else we get, the higher ranking we get, which means we get to spread this message and help so many more people. And that is it for another week. Remember, folks, progress equals happiness. Take care, everybody.
Carl Bryan built Profit Acceleration Software 2.0 to train business coaches how to find any small business owner more than $100,000 in 45 minutes without them spending an extra dollar on marketing or advertising. This becomes a business coach's superpower. So as a business coach, you'll never again have to worry about working with business owners that can't afford your high-end coaching fees. Check us out at focused.com.